Yo, hello, hello. Happy Sunday. Early. Yeah, bring on. Hi, Green Eyed. Hey, Bree. Hey, Evie. It's just a few of us, I'm sure. Hey, Lise. A lot of people don't like to rewatch older stuff, but I do, and I need a break. I really need a break. I wanted to stream, but not Nancy Guthrie right off the bat. I'm burnt out on that. But anyways, hi, happy Sunday. We have quite a few lives today. We're gonna do JODI ARIAS the first day and opening statements. Depends on how long they are. I might separate them. We'll see. And then we're going to do Kenzie, and I do have an Epstein live as well. So I'm gonna try to get them done earlier. We've been on pretty late the last few nights, which I might do an after dark tonight, but we've been up late doing Nancy. And right now, I think last time I checked, there was no updates on Nancy either. So that's why I didn't really care to go live on it now, because I don't think there's any updates. Let me check. But yeah, we're gonna replay JODI ARIAS. I'm in the JODI ARIAS mood. We did a deep dive the other day. Definitely go check it out. It was good. We read the supplemental report, and then we did crime scene photos, and now we're just starting the trial. And this is just like for fun on the side. No updates on Nancy, and no updates, I don't believe. Let me look at Pima County Sheriff's Department. Nothing on Nancy. So, hey, Cracked. Hey, Lola. And hi, Psycho. I'm listening to my friend just got into this case. Gonna send her your channel. Oh, really? The JODI ARIAS case? Yeah, I've just been wanting, I've never seen the actual trial myself other than here and there. So I figured we could do that for fun. Okay, cool. Yeah, JODI, it's a crazy case. We are still going to continue the deep dive too, like text messages and all of that. So yeah, definitely send her my channel. I appreciate that. Thank you. They think they found the glove and it matches. Yeah, I thought they said they need a wait still, right? They said that they have a match on the glove, but now they have to send it into whatever so they can put it in the database. I thought that's what we would have to wait 24 hours more. So I'm like, is there even going to be an update today? I don't know. I might not do Nancy and just wait till tomorrow. Because if there's nothing going on, I don't want to continue to press it, and like it's been such a weird case. Yeah, I think I saw let's see, actually I didn't look at what Brian Enton said. I just looked at Pima County. But I should check on Brian Enton's. Oh yeah, it says signal sniffers sophisticated FBI tech. Oh, okay, yeah. The FBI statement on the gloves is confusing. I'm still trying to sort it out, he says 3 hours ago. This part of the FBI statement is significant. The one with the DNA profiles recovered. The one with the DNA profile recovered is different and appears to match the gloves of the subject in the surveillance video. I'm confused. So the DNA profile recovered is different and it appears to match the gloves of the subject in the surveillance video. So it's the guy that's in the video. But what does it mean The DNA profile is different. Like a family member? What does that mean? DNA profile is different, but it appears to match the gloves. Okay, so hey, Cuffy. Yeah, it's still confusing. They must mean the one in the house matches the one they found a mile away. So then it's not the guy in the video. And if they know if it matches the person in the surveillance video, then they know who the person in the surveillance video is, or no. Let me read this post. The gloves found approximately 2 miles from the Guthrie residence in a field near the side of the road were packaged by the sheriff's department and sent overnight on 2/12. They arrived in a private lab on Florida on 2/13. The FBI received preliminary results yesterday on 2/14 and are awaiting control and official confirmation before putting unknown male profile into CODIS. This process takes 24 hours. Investigators collected approximately 16 gloves in various areas near the house. Most of them were the searchers' gloves that they discarded in various areas where they searched the vicinity. The one with the DNA profile recovered is different and appears to match the gloves of the subject in the surveillance video. The FBI has and will continue to provide assistance on whatever timeline is provided to us. Yeah, so what does that mean though? Because it says it matches the person at in the surveillance, so then they know who it is. But then it says the DNA profile recovered is different. So then it's not the person at the surveillance video, or it's I'm so confused. Gloves match. But what does that mean by the DNA is different? The DNA profile is recovered is different and appears to match the gloves of the subject in the surveillance. It makes no sense. It has to be the same DNA profile if it's the same person in the surveillance. It makes no sense. That is what we don't know yet. How do we know the glove in the house even belongs to the because the house was contaminated so many times? Hey, Jesse, happy Sunday. So confusing. We might have to do a live on that, like a hangout live like we did last night. Those have been doing pretty good on views. So shout out to you guys, but I appreciate it. Maybe we'll do a Nancy little hangout later. I have no idea, Evie. I don't even get it. So we might have to watch like a couple of videos, you know how we like to do. Anyways, let's get back to JODI. Yeah, we're watching JODI ARIAS. We're just hanging out, conversation, a break from the Nancy Guthrie stuff, even though here we are talking about it, but it's been like overpowering our brains, right? And Epstein has been as well. And we're going to be covering Epstein later. So get ready for it. I'm pushing a bunch of streams out today because as you guys know, YouTube is censoring me on Epstein stuff. So it really helps if you guys hit the like button and if you guys can replay or watch. So shout out to all of you. I still stay. There are 2 people at the door. Day 15 of Nancy missing, guys. It's a long time for an 84-year-old lady to be missing. For sure, for sure. No good. No bueno. For these, I like to put the chat up on the screen since we're just kind of hanging out. So we're gonna do opening statements, and then depending on how that long that is, maybe we can get to day 1. I have the audio. I use this channel that they redo the volume so we can actually hear it better. So I'm down for that. Because you know how sometimes like body cam, we're doing Kenzie body cam later as well. And then we have Brian Kohberger, you guys. We're gonna go over the autopsy tomorrow. It's intense. It's intense. I'll be dropping some videos today too, Epstein videos. What else? What What else was the true crime news that I had for you guys today? Oh, I have my coffee, so grab your coffee, your drink, whatever you want. We don't judge here. Okay, let's start.
Good morning again. This is not.
Oh, thank you, Evie. If it lags, let me know, you guys, because StreamYard's acting up. Thank you, Evie. I appreciate you. Love you too. Thanks for being here and being amazing.
Case of who done it. The person who done it, the person who committed this killing, sits in court today. It's the defendant, JODI and ARIAS. And the person that she done it to is an individual by the name of Travis Victor Alexander, a former boyfriend of hers, an individual that she was in love with, an individual that was a good man, an individual that was one of the greatest blessings in her life. And this love, well, she rewarded that love for Travis Victor Alexander by sticking a knife in his chest. And you know, he was a good man, according to her. And with regard to being a good man, well, she slit his throat as a reward for being a good man. And in terms of these blessings, well, she knocked the blessings out of him by putting a bullet in his head during one event that occurred on June 4th of 2008. Travis Alexander had the misfortune of meeting up with the defendant in Las Vegas, Nevada at the MGM Grand back in September of 2006. They were both involved with a group called PPL, or Prepaid Legal. And basically what this organization did is they went out and they sold units, if you will. And basically it was a situation where people would buy these units and they would be covered for legal purposes should the need arise. And they met, as I said, in September of 2006. And after the meeting, it is true that Mr. Alexander began to have contact with the defendant, and he began sort of to pursue her. But it is also true, or an indication anyway, that initially he was mostly interested in converting her to the Mormon faith. You see, he was a Mormon. He had also been a Mormon for some time. And one of the few first things that he did when he began to talk to her initially is that he gave her the Book of Mormon. And a lot of the time that they had was spent on reading this Book of Mormon, talking about it. And so that their religious relationship progressed to a point, and it was a very rapid religious relationship, that it
Yeah, she only did it because she wanted him.
Progressed to the point that in November, approximately 2 months later,
I don't think she
in
cared.
November of 2006, the defendant chose to become a Mormon. And the process that you undergo to do that is you become baptized. And so she was baptized in November of 2006. And the person that she chose to baptize her was none other than Travis Alexander, the person that she had met up with, the person who had introduced her to this faith.
Wait, Travis could baptize her even though they had sex?
And the person that she was beginning to get closer with. And so their relationship progressed after that point, and it became a much more personal relationship. Now they were both Mormons, and there are certain guidelines for Mormons that you'll hear about. Specifically, one of them is that there's not to be any sexual contact before marriage. That's considered a very large sin. And I guess in the grand scheme of things, that's one of the sins that you need to avoid. But their relationship began to progress, and it was a very personal relationship. At that time, as the relationship progressed, the defendant was not living in the Arizona area. In fact, she lived in the Palm Springs area of California. And so it was sort of like a long distance relationship. They would call each other, they would send text messages, they would email each other. And so their relationship blossomed that way. And occasionally they would see each other. He would drive out there, or they would somehow meet. Well, by February of 2007, they became sort of an item. They agreed to just continue dating each other, just to see each other and not anybody else. And as part of that, One of the things that happened is that they both did what is not expected, but what usually can be expected to happen between two young people. They began to engage in sexual relations. And obviously that is against the Mormon faith. And it provided conflict for both of them, that here they were sinning, if you will, all the time, whenever they would get together, and yet professing to be good Mormons on the other hand. But that's sort of how their relationship was at that point. Well, they continued this relationship for about 5 months, from February 2007 to about June of 2007.
Look at her.
And in June, to be exact, using her telling, June 29th of 2007, the defendant couldn't help herself. She's a snoop, just couldn't help herself. And what she did is she went and looked.
Did he just say she's a snoop? That's hilarious. That's crazy. I have like seen JODI.
Into,
child.
got a hold of Mr. Alexander's phone, his cellular telephone, and she wanted to see what was in there.
No, a stalker.
Couldn't stop herself from doing that, and so she goes and looks at his cell phone in June of 2007. And she's looking for things to see whether or not there's going to be any contact with any other women. She describes him as being flirtatious, and she wanted to know what was going on and wanted to see if there was anything in that cell phone that would confirm her suspicions about his flirtations. And she found things there that she didn't like. But it was her going into his cell phone snooping. She did it surreptitiously. She did it without his knowledge because she wanted to know. Just couldn't help herself. And so she looks in there and finds things that she doesn't like. And at that point, they break up. That's June 29th of 2007. And remember, at that time, she's still
What did she find?
living in Southern California in the Palm
Pictures?
Spring area. After they broke up, you would expect that perhaps the emails would end. You would expect that perhaps the text messages would end, and maybe that the calls would attenuate. But just the opposite happens. Because instead of staying there in Southern California, or perhaps moving to where she was originally from, which is �WYRECA, California, which is on the Oregon-California border, instead of going there after this breakup in June of 2007, what does the defendant do? She moves to Mesa. She moves to Mesa so she can be closer to him. This individual that she does not trust, this individual whose phone she's gone and looked into, and this individual who she's just broken up, what does she do? Let's go to Mesa. Not only does she move to Mesa, but she moves to an area that's very close to his. And she
Didn't he stop practicing because of this case? Hey, Kimmy, I forget which other child is prosecuted. Me too. Now that you mention it, I was thinking, what other cases is he in? Is it another big one? He gets he stops practicing after this, right? I think I remember us having this convo in one of the lives. I think when we watched the interrogation. Yeah, she accused him of misconduct and bullying. Psycho ass JODI.
In the same ward, but she does move to an area that's very close to where he is. And of course, the relationship continues. They continue to talk. They continue to text message each other. They continue the emails. And oh yes, they continue the sexual liaisons because she moved here. Well, this continues on for some time, but Mr. Alexander, by this point, appears to be ready to move on, or at least he.
Ooh, this case, I didn't know. We might have to look at that for fun. It says he could. Douglas Grant, a murder trial for Phoenix nutritionist for a sports team. Ooh, that one looks good too. And then he did, I'm gonna save this. That would be cool to look back on those as well. And the Wendy Andriano one case, who is a woman who unalived her husband, similar to JODI. But I don't see any like other high profile ones. That doesn't mean there aren't, you know. Those are probably good too.
Appears to be ready to date other people. And in fact, he starts dating somebody by the name of 𝐤𝐤𝐲. And there may have been others that he started to date. But at that point, there was no relationship between him and the defendant other than this constant contact and this sexual relationship between the two. This relationship that was facilitated, this sexual relationship that was facilitated by her move to the Mesa area. Well, this continues for some time until April of 2008. So in June of 2007, she moves here, and we fast forward to April of 2008, when finally the relationship seems to have run its course. It seems to have run its course because the defendant has finally decided to move to where the hometown is, a small town by the name of 𝐌𝐞𝐥𝐥𝐲, California. And again, it's about 1,000 miles away from Mesa. And what she does before she leaves is she spends about a week with Mr. Alexander. And yes, according to her, they do have sexual intercourse. They continue that course of conduct. And
Yeah, he was disbarred. That's why I said he stopped practicing, I think, after that. Well, I think it was just disbarred in Arizona. But that sucks. Because he's a good lawyer. I thought he had won some type of award at some time. Or was like in the top 6 attorneys or something.
Rents a U-Haul, and there's an agreement between the two of them involving Mr. Alexander's automobile, a BMW. And basically, he gives it to her, but not really.
Okay, cited for multiple misconduct. I think it was a lie. I hope he's enjoying retirement. That's crazy.
Giving in the sense that she has to pay him, and she has to pay him an undetermined amount of money per month for this BMW that is his. He actually then buys a Prius, a black Prius. And so in early April of 2008, she loads up that U-Haul. Her mother may have come out here, but left before that. And then straps the BMW behind it. Doesn't get very far before there's a problem. The BMW starts leaking oil and all these kinds of things because she left it in first gear and cannot be towed. So now the BMW is destroyed and it goes to some sort of shop. But she leaves, but she's still basically going to pay for that BMW because she's the individual that was in control of it. But that's still sort of up in the air about that. Well, you would have thought that once she moved to 𝐌𝐞𝐥𝐥𝐲, which is approximately 1,000 miles away, you would have thought that their relationship would have been over. No, it wasn't over. They continued.
Yeah, I think we talked about that, about reading it on here, the book. That sounds good.
Talk. They continue to
Hi, Vanjie.
Text messages.
Love you too, girl.
Email, instant messaging, and oh yes, there's the phone sex that she records of them when they are engaged in that particular conduct.
We're gonna watch
it's the
that.
phone sex that she keeps. Well, 2 short months after that, April of 2008, when she moved to 𝐌𝐞𝐥𝐥𝐲, in June 9th of 2008, the police get a 911 call. The Mesa Police Department receives a 911 call. And the person calling on the other line is an individual by the name of Marie Hall. And Marie Hall is an individual that Mr. Alexander has taken an interest in. She is somebody that is very much in the faith. She's somebody that is in his singles ward, so that they go and they sit around and they socialize and they talk about the Mormon doctrine. And so she's somebody that he feels much affinity to, and he starts to court her. And again, this is when the defendant is already in 𝐌𝐞𝐥𝐥𝐲. He begins to look at her, and the relationship with Lisa Andrews is now over. And so he begins to take her out. There's a total of 3 dates that they go on. But for her, there's really no spark there. She's not interested in the slightest in him. Not only is she not interested in the slightest in him, she lets him know about it. It's not like she's going to sit there and just continue to go out with him and hang out and that sort of thing. No, they go out one time, they go back to a bookstore and they drink hot chocolate. There's no contact at all. There's not even sometimes what is considered the obligatory goodnight kiss. There's none of that. And she lets him know, I'm just not interested in you. And in fact, she starts to date somebody else. After she breaks up with that person, Mr. Alexander feels that perhaps there's a chance with him. And so they go out one more time and they go to a crafts kind of thing where they put a pot together, that's kind of thing, or they go rock climbing. That's the extent of their dating relationship. He's interested, she is not, but there's never any physical contact. I think so. Mr. Alexander has is a free trip to Cancun. This organization, this prepaid legal that he's involved in, has given him, along with other people with the PPL, a trip to Cancun, and he's allowed to take somebody with him. And so he approaches this Marie or Mimi Hall about going with him to Cancun. She says, no, I really don't want to go because I don't want you to believe that there's something going on between us. I really don't want to go there. But he tells her that that's not how it is. They're going to go as friends. In fact, they're even going to be in different bedrooms. So it's a situation where she's been to Cancun before. She wants to go. It was fun. So she doesn't see any harm in going. And so the trip that they're supposed to go on is supposed to start on the 10th of June. And so she's the one that's on the phone on June 9th. And she hasn't spoken to Mr. Alexander for about a week, since June 2nd, which is a Monday. And it's strange to her because the trip is impending, and he usually would call her every day or send text messages or maybe email her. So it was strange that he hadn't called her, but she really didn't think anything of it. You know, since they were only going to go as friends, what's the big deal, right? And so when she doesn't hear from him up until the night before they're to go, which is the 9th, which is a Tuesday, well, a Monday, one of the things she does is she goes over on that Monday night. And when she goes over there, she goes and knocks on the door. And she knocks on the door very, very hard. Well, nobody answers. The only thing that she sees is the dog. The dog Napoleon, which is Mr. Alexander's dog, comes up to the door, just sort of throwing himself up on the door very excitedly. And she can tell that there's something wrong here. But nobody answers the door, and she doesn't know how to get in. Now, there's 4 of them. There's Mimi Hall, her girlfriend, and these 2 other individuals, 2 men. They open the door, and when they open the door, Marie Hall stays behind, and the 2 men go inside. But she's able to see through the crack all this blood that's in the hallway. And the 2 individuals come out running excitedly and saying,
Did it just like
blood
jump?
here, and that's Travis. He's in the shower. He's dead. And that's the reason that Marie Hall was on the telephone that evening of June 9th, 2008, calling the police to let her.
Wait, did it just jump? Because wasn't he talking about her being at the house? Let me see. I'm gonna go to a different stream. Really?
Contact at all. There's not even sometimes what is considered the obligatory goodnight kiss. There's none of that. And she lets him know.
I'm not gonna use that. They do like an audio remastered, but I'm not gonna use it. How many prosecutors does it take to convict? I know. I love Juan. You should have seen the prosecutor in this, DC. I have never even heard of that case. Let me add it to the list. I have like a bunch that you guys have recommended that I've been slowly but surely looking into, on aside from Epstein and Nancy that we've been covering a lot. I've never heard of that case. I like to hear about new cases too, so. Hold, please. Yeah, okay, here we go. Okay, wait, I was gonna ask you guys too, since we're just like hanging out. What do you guys think, hey Luna, about the Faust case? Do you guys know anything about it? I know some people are obsessed. I also never covered the au pair one, but I know it's over now, but right? I think she just got sentenced. I heard that the Faust trial is really good. He's lying. He's the best. Yeah. Okay. So I found a different.
I'm just not interested in you. And in fact, she starts to
This one shouldn't skip because it's court
date somebody else. After she breaks up with that person, Mr. Alexander feels that perhaps there's a chance with him. And so they go out one more time and they go to a crafts kind of thing where they put a pot together, that's the kind of thing, or they go rock climbing. That's the extent of their dating relationship. He's interested, she is not, but there's never any physical contact. Well, one of the things that Mr. Alexander has is a free trip to Cancun. This organization, this prepaid legal that he's involved in, has given him, along with other people with the PPL, a trip to Cancun.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with it either. It's the Edric Faust case. I know they just did like a whole trial on it on I think it's Court TV and Law and Crime. Oh, it was a cold case? Whoa. It is. Kimmy, I'll look into that. And then I don't know, I might have to look into this one too. I know it's been like everywhere. I haven't heard about it. That's why I'm not weighing in. Really? A lot of people are streaming it, a lot of bigger channels. So I'm surprised. Yeah, it looks like it was a case from 2001. And I think the trial is either happening right now or, yeah, closing arguments just happened on Friday, I think. I'll have to look into that.
And he's allowed to take somebody with him. And so he approaches this Marie or Mimi Hall about going with him to Cancun. She says, no, I really don't want to go because I don't want you to believe that there's something going on between us. I really don't want to go there. But he tells her that that's not how it is. They're going to go as friends. In fact, they're even going to be in different bedrooms. So it's a situation where she's been to Cancun before. She wants to go. It was fun. So she doesn't see any harm in going. And so the trip that they're supposed to go on is supposed to start on the 10th of June. And so she's the one that's on the phone on June 9th. And she hasn't spoken to Mr. Alexander for about a week, since June 2nd, which is a Monday. And it's strange to her because the trip is impending, and he usually would call her every day or send text messages or maybe email her. So it was strange that he hadn't called her, but she really didn't think anything of it. You know, since they were only going to go as friends, what's the big deal, right? And so when she doesn't hear from him up until the night before they're to go, which is the 9th, which is a Tuesday, well, a Monday, one of the things she does is she goes over on that Monday night. And when she goes over there, she goes and knocks on the door. And she knocks on the door very, very hard. Well, nobody answers. The only thing that she sees is the dog. The dog Napoleon, which is Mr. Alexander's dog, comes up to the door, just sort of throwing himself up on the door very excitedly. And she can tell that there's something wrong here. But nobody answers the door, and she doesn't know how to get in. And so what she does is she decides to call a girlfriend of hers to see if they can get in or somehow make contact with Mr. Alexander, because it's been about a week and now it's already June 9th and there's a problem here. And since they're going the next day. Well, she calls this friend of hers who says, okay, I'm going to be out there and I'm going to meet you at the house. In the meantime, Ms. Hall then actually goes back to her house to see whether or not there's any emails from Mr. Alexander, perhaps send him one to see if there's going to be any contact that way. She can't get in the house, perhaps electronically she can go in and have him respond. No response whatsoever, so she goes back to that house. And this is sometime after 9:30, 10 o'clock in the evening. She's not keeping track, really not sure, other than that it was in the evening. And so they go back and her friend shows up with a boyfriend. So now there's three of them. There's Marie Hall, her girlfriend, and the guy that she's with. Bang on the door, they can't get in. They decide that perhaps they're going to call somebody else so that they can go to the pad on the garage. And then maybe if they can get the number to that, they can then go inside the house. And that pad does have a code, as most newer garage doors do. And in fact, the number to that garage pad is 0187. The reason that we know that is because the defendant also admits to having that code. And she admits that that's the number to the code. And if she wanted to go over there, she could just punch in that 0187 and go on inside. But Marie Hall didn't have it. Her friend didn't have it. The guy that was with her didn't have it. But they were able to call somebody who was actually able to give them that number. 0187, they punch it in, and they go into the garage. Things are starting to not look so good because inside the garage is this black Prius. This black Prius, that's Mr. Alexander's. He's not answering the door. The dog is going crazy, and his Prius is in the garage. So they decide to walk in. And they walk in, and this is a two-story house. They walk in, and to the right is the washing machine and the dryer. And then they take a left, and to the left is a bathroom, to the right is a study. And as they continue on to get to the stairs, to go upstairs, Marie Hall, or Mimi, notices that there's this strong, pungent, foul odor in the air.
Yeah, she had that code.
She figures, that Napoleon, he really must have been having real problems here because this doesn't smell very good at all. And so they walk up the stairs. And when they walk up the stairs, they come to the first door on the landing, which on the left, which is Mr. Alexander's room. And I say room because Mr. Alexander wasn't living alone. He actually had a number of roommates, and the bedrooms were on the second floor. And there were two other people that he was renting rooms to. There was himself up there, plus these two other people. So they get up there, they go to the door, and it's locked. But the door is the lock on the door is the kind of lock that you can turn it from the inside, close the door, and it stays locked. It's not a situation that you need a key to lock it, but you do need a key to get back in and unlock it. So what they do, the three of them, they go talk to the roommate that's up there who's listening to music, knock on the door, and he has the key. So now there's four of them. There's Mimi Hall, her girlfriend, and these two other individuals, two men. They open the door, and when they open the door, Marie Hall stays behind, and the two men go inside. But she's able to see through the crack all this blood that's in the hallway.
Wow.
And the two individuals come out running excitedly and saying, "There's blood here." And that's Travis. He's in the shower. He's dead.
Wow.
And that's the reason that Marie Hall was on the telephone that evening.
Hey, Wilson. Yes, it happened. We're replaying. It's our little break from Nancy and Epstein before we get to those lives. Good to see you. Yeah, she had that code, that crazy psycho. My friends call Prius. Yeah. Yeah, I guess they did. This was a long time ago.
June 9th, 2008, calling the police to let them know that the person that she was going to go to Cancun with the next day, this friend of hers from the church, Travis Alexander, was dead. Well, course, the police responded. And one of the things that they were able to note, and I do have a diagram so that maybe you can follow closer what I'm saying. I told you that, and this is exhibit number 249. I told you that Marie Hall and her friends went to this door, and this is the door. As you can see there, looking there, that's a big red spot. And there was lots of blood that you could also see here. And of course, the body is found on the lower right-hand corner in the shower. It wasn't standing, it wasn't anything, it was all just sort of hunched in. And one of the things that struck the investigators when they first went in there and they started looking at this is that the scene had been staged. It had been manipulated. Whoever had been the killer of this scene had manipulated that scene. And the police knew that that scene had been manipulated, first of all, by where the body was found. The body was found inside the shower, and the killing had obviously taken place somewhere else because there was blood all around the bottom here, this little important part. Right there on the sink, it is clear that the victim had stood over that and bled. And in fact, down here, it was also clear that he had bled there, and there were some drag marks down that hallway. So somebody had taken the time to manipulate, stage, change the appearance of the scene by placing the body there. The other thing that was notable about the staging of the scene was that whoever had done this killing had also taken the time to wash the body down. And it appeared that the person who had done this actually washed the body down with this big cup, had taken it and poured it all over the body so that basically there was almost no blood on the body. It was just bloated from decomposition, but the area here, the cut that they were subsequently going to see, there was no real blood anywhere. So it was clear that somebody had cleaned him up such that whatever evidence was there is not going to be there anymore because the body had been washed. The other thing that they noted was that
I cannot believe how brutal. Yeah, I know. R.I.P. Travis.
if this body is in such bad condition, there was no knife there, and it appears there were cuts, and it appears there was a shot, and the gun wasn't there either. So somebody had also removed those from the scene, had taken the time, had thought this out enough to say, I'm going to take the gun and I'm going to take the knife away. Additionally, what this person had done was that they had taken, possibly, and it's consistent with the glass, had taken the glass and had just poured water down the hallway, down this area, because boxes that were on the ground level in this closet area here were actually soaked in water and blood. And additionally, what they were able to see was that down here, this big, large, massive blood with 45 on there, well, that also had a lot of water in it. That was diluted blood. Somebody had taken the time to actually try to clean that. Not only that, the items have been moved. For example, there was a scale, and the scale underneath it had drops of blood that somebody had, somehow the blood had gotten there, the scale had been turned over. The mat, the same thing, there was blood underneath. So somebody had taken a considerable amount of time, however much time that would be, to stage that part of the scene. But they weren't through with that part of the staging of the scene. Because what they ended up doing is they took, and there was a matching set of towels there. What they did is they took one of the towels and began to wipe the area there. We don't know exactly what area was wiped down, but the towel is red and has this reddish substance to it. Not only did they wipe it down with that towel, but they took all of the bedding from this king-size bed, and they took that along with this towel and walked it downstairs to that washer as you walk in and stuck it in there. And what was also notable for the police in terms of what was staged and what was manipulated was that here in this closet and in this bedroom where the bed was, That had not been manipulated. In other words, there was no blood there, but the covers had been taken, anything that was on there had been taken and placed into that washing machine. There were also some of the victim's clothing that was in that washing machine. And also, interestingly enough, in that washing machine downstairs was a camera. And this camera, unfortunately, had been put through the wash. And as everybody that's familiar with the washing, that's not a very gentle sort of process. And the camera was destroyed. It was all messed up. It would never take any pictures again. So that's one of the things that confronted or that the police were able to see. The other thing that they were able to find came from the body, things that they needed to know.
I don't think so. Green-eyed says, I wonder if she would have gotten away with it if it wouldn't have been for that camera. I thought they had her fingerprints from the wall, or no? We'll find out. I thought
and one
so,
of the
though.
things that they noted from that was that this was a very violent attack that took some time. The reason that it was a very violent attack is that there were 3 ways that he was killed. It wasn't just one shot, it was more than that.
Wow.
And what the medical examiner was able to find was, his name's Kevin Horn, was that there was a stab to the heart area that was not immediately or rapidly fatal. And what that means is he's stabbed and he still lives. He still can walk. He can still stand. He can still grab. He can still speak. That's not immediately fatal. And it's not rapidly fatal. The other thing that the medical examiner found, but it would kill him, this stab to the heart. The other thing that the medical examiner found was that his throat was slit from ear to ear. And that one was rapidly fatal, which means it would have killed him very quickly because of the blood loss. Not only would it have killed him very quickly, but he would not have gained or...
Yeah, the palm print, and then I think there was fingerprints at some point too. And then there was hair. This was way before people started putting cameras inside the house. Yep.
Or had consciousness for a very long period of time. He would have almost immediately have lapsed into unconsciousness. So the one to the throat. Well, and the one to the head, well, again, since that involved the brain, and although the body was decomposed, according to the medical examiner, that one was also rapidly fatal. And additionally, he would lose consciousness immediately. Based on that, and based on the fact that Mr. Alexander in his hands had what the medical examiner is going to term as defensive wounds. In other words, Mr. Alexander did not die calmly. He fought. Whoever this person was that had killed him, he had fought, which meant that he was conscious at the time. So what that meant is that with regard to the injuries that were inflicted, according to the medical examiner, the first injury was the one to the heart. And when that was inflicted, Mr. Alexander at some point began to fight. And what he was able to do was grab the knife, but he grabbed the blade of the knife so that he has cuts in his hand as he's fighting, presumably for his life. They're called defensive wounds. And given that there was blood over the sink that we have over here, and that the sink is waist level, and that blood is coming down from a source, Mr. Alexander was able to get up from where he was standing at this point, go over to the sink, stand there, and bleed. But those aren't the only wounds that he had. He had a grouping of wounds back here behind his neck, on his shoulders. He had some on his head. He had some on his ears. He had some here too. And by here, I mean his front torso area. So the first hit, if you will, was to the heart area. And he was walking around. He was grabbing the knife. He was trying to defend himself. And that's why they call them defensive wounds. Given the blood spatter pattern, he ended up...
Oh, okay, Jody.
Here where the 45 was. And when he ended up there, that's when his throat was slit. And he was still alive, and we know that because of the...
Really? Was she crying as she slit his throat from ear to ear? I'm just curious.
amount of blood that was there.
Let me rewind for a second because I need to laugh at her. But no, this is a good part.
That he had. He had a grouping of wounds back here behind his neck, on his shoulders. He had some on his head. He had some on his ears. He had some here too. And by here, I mean his front torso area. So the first hit, if you will, was to the heart area. And he was walking around. He was grabbing the knife. He was trying to defend himself. And that's why they call them defensive wounds. Given the blood spatter pattern, he ended up over here where the 45 was. And when he ended up there, that's when his throat was slit. And he was still alive, and we know that because of the amount of blood that was there. So whoever had done it basically followed him around, gone to where that 45 is, went to finish him off and cut his throat. But they weren't through with him. What they did is, this individual then, killer, dragged him this way, towards the area of the sink. And in that area of the sink, where that number 1 is, right in that general area, and according to the medical examiner, by that time, he was probably most likely dead, finished the job as if it needed to be finished. Because the first wound, even though it wasn't rapidly fatal, was going to be fatal. The second one, for sure, was totally fatal. The third one, well, took a shot, stuck it in his temple, and the body was at that point more likely than not dead. So Mr. Alexander, that probably
She really did finish him off. Like, she was like, nope.
didn't feel that one.
You have no
But one of
chance.
the things that we do know, and you'll see, is that there's a number 1 here. One of the things that was there was a 25 caliber casing, which means that the gun that was used was a 25 caliber. Even though police were not able to recover the gun, they know that it was a 25 caliber handgun. So that's what they had in this particular area. But you can have all of that. You now know that it was Mr. Alexander. You now know how he died, but you really don't know the time. You haven't narrowed that down. And quite frankly, you don't know the identity, one of the most important things, of the person who may have done this. And so police were kind of left there to guess. And you can lift all of the fingerprints you want in the world, but if you don't have anybody to compare that to, you're not going to know who the person was. And you can get all of the blood and DNA samples that you want, saliva, any biological substance that you want, but if you don't have it to compare to a known sample, that really doesn't get you any nearer to solving this crime to find out who the person was that had actually killed this individual. Well, the police then went downstairs and they found this camera. And as I told you, this camera was destroyed. But one of the things that they were able to do is they were able to take out a very small item. It's a SIM card, which is really the brain of the camera. And this camera had been recently purchased by Mr. Alexander. He had bought it between April of 2008 and his killing, because according to the defendant, she actually advised him via the phone while he was making this purchase of this camera so that he would get a really good camera. Well, this really good camera was in the washer, it was destroyed, it wasn't going to take any pictures anymore. So the police really seemed to have nothing except the SIM card.
So, like, was it actually an accident that she took those photos, or did she try to take photos of the crime scene and then she changed her mind? I guess that would be an accident. Crime of passion / psychopath. Lots of rage, lots, 28, including the cut throat. Like, it's so bad. If you've seen the crime scene photos, we covered them on the deep dive, but I didn't show that one because it's just, there's no way I could show that, like, without it being redacted or anything. She dropped it. The really crazy thing is that Jodi is actually very smart. Yeah, she didn't think this through. She might be right. She cuts his throat and then she's still like, wait, let me pew pew you in the head. And she got him in the eyebrow. It's hard to tell if her reaction is performative. She's a total fake. I think she's a total psychopath here. The camera fell to the floor and she puts it in the washer.
And the SIM card has gotten wet. It has gone through the cycle And so what ends up happening,
I don't know that I would have done that.
what ends up happening is that they get this SIM card. And with this SIM card, they are able to find, and you're going to hear the term end case. They're able to put it through this process so that even though not only has it been damaged, but in this camera, somebody has gone through and erased everything. So that not only is the camera damaged physically, but the person who had it last, whoever that may be, has erased everything. But the police are able to recover, using this EnCase program, 3 sets of photographs. And the first set of photographs.
How like interesting, because the Nancy Guthrie case right now, they were also like, no, we're not able to recover anything. And then they were able to recover something. Same with here, you know? In my opinion, he was breaking it off. Yeah, he was that night. I think he was done. He took a shower. She followed him. She intended to hurt him. Yeah. Like I said before, I think she knew that if he went on that trip with that girl, he was for sure over her, whether he chose to be with her or not. Was this case in part famous because of J.A. being an attractive girl? No, I don't think so. It's really a crazy case. I don't think that had everything to do with it. And it was like back when true crime was just like becoming a big deal, you know, this one and Chris Watts and Scott Peterson, and I think John Benet Ramsey, that one too. But I mean, she is not a bad looking person. AMSM
is in the early afternoon. And it's a group of 6 photographs. And these photographs are dated June 4th, 2008. And they have times on them. And they have time to the second. And what they're able to see that on June 4th, at 1.
No, she wasn't a true Mormon. That's why I said earlier, like, she just did it to get in his pants and be with him. I don't think she was truly a devoted, genuine Mormon.
42
ever.
And 53 seconds.
Yeah, to please Travis.
Mr. Alexander was very much alive. Not only was he very much alive, he was involved in these photographs with a woman. And yes, they were both sinning as they were going at it. They were nude. And yes, they are engaged in sexual relations in these photographs. And the first photograph is at 1:42:53 p.m. The police are able to go in there and get that photograph. And this shows a frontal view of a woman. Then there's another photograph at 1:44 p.m. and it shows this woman's back end. And they're nude. They're just taking photographs. At 1:44:50 p.m., there's a photograph of the victim, and clearly he's excited. But there's also on there a bottle of KY, which is a personal lubricant that's used during sex.
Oh,
and we know that it was the defendant who introduced Mr. Alexander to the use of this KY. Well, the other thing is that we also, at 1:47:15, there's another view of the defendant. And then there are 2 other photographs that you really can't tell the time, but certainly they are.
I agree with you, Divine. I think she intended to take the camera. Yeah, that's kind of what I was trying to say earlier. Like, I know she accidentally took the photos. I wouldn't be surprised if she was trying to save some for like trophy, but yeah, I think accidentally. And I don't think she was going to leave the camera. I think it's dumb. She put it in the washer with her, like she did the weapons and journal and the cart.
The defendant. So there's a total of 4 photographs of the defendant and 2 of Mr. Alexander. And they're both of them are very much alive. And yes, these are salacious photographs in the sense that what they are doing is what happens behind closed doors. But there is no legal prohibition against her driving or coming over to his house and having sex. There's no prohibition about that. There's no prohibition against Mr. Alexander having sex either. But that's what they find. They find him with a woman having sex on June 4th of 2008. Very much alive, both of them sinning, if you will. Well, that still doesn't get you any nearer to solving this crime, because at least you know that he was alive on June 4th. And as they look at those photographs, they're able to make a determination, are able to see that actually the person in that photograph is somebody that people know. And it's an individual by the name of JODI ARIAS. But you know, photographs can be a little blurry, they can be a little deceptive. You kind of want to be sure that that's the person. And so what they do is, on this hallway, and you'll see it as number 77, they were able to find a...
They weren't together that long. Wasn't it like 5 or 6 months or something? Oh, so y'all are saying she washed it and then was going to grab it and take it with her and she forgot? Yeah, I don't know. I just think it's really dumb that she thought to put it in the washer. Yeah, I think they were only, hey Luna, I think they were only together for a few months. He does not hold back, no. Yeah, I think it was only 5 or 6 months. It was in the last live we did. I thought it said 5 months. Or was it 5 months before she moved? We don't even really know either, because like they were not together. I mean, they were, but then they broke up and then they continued to see each other for a really long time. Yeah, you're right. It's not very easy to find it online. I do remember reading about it though. I wonder if there was like blood on it, and so she thought putting it in the washer and I'm destroying it, and then maybe she like left and forgot about it, because you're right. Why would she leave the camera and dispose of everything else? And I mean, the weapons haven't even been found, right? Neither one of them? Or was it one of them? I think we talked about this last time. I always forget. I know for sure the pew pew was never found. Right? Yeah, see, it says on off again and on again boyfriend.
Palm print, left palm print. And that is a mixture, it's a DNA mixture, but it's a palm print. And they're able to compare it to the known photograph of JODI Ann ARIAS, and she's left-handed, and that's her palm print that's on there. So now they have a photograph of what they believe is her, plus they have this palm print, and they've developed a DNA profile from there that matches her DNA profile. Then also in the hallway here at number 6, down here toward the bottom, where there's the RP and the 6, they find a hair, and they conduct DNA analysis on that hair. And the profile that is developed pursuant to that DNA analysis matches the profile of the defendant. So the police are now sure that the person in those photographs is the defendant, and it's June 4th of 2008. Again, it's nice to know that, and they're getting close, and it appears, because of all the blood that's there, that she's the person that committed this horrible crime, that committed this horrible killing. So what they do then is that they continue on with the investigation of the photographs, and they find a second set of photographs in this camera. And this second set of photographs is 20 photographs, and they are all of Mr. Alexander.
Yeah, I just pulled up an article and it says brief relationship, and it says they met in 2006 on that work conference. It says after Alexander's friends say that after a few months he tried to break it off. So yeah, it was only a few months.
And presumably because she's the one that's in the photograph with him, and they're not auto photographs. In other words, he's not taking them himself. It appears that she's the one that's taking these photographs of him in the shower, and they're on June 4th, 2008 at 5:22:24. They were engaged in these acts at 1:45, But now at 5:22:24, he's in the shower and he's posing for the person who's taking these photographs. And there's many poses of the water running down him, and most of them are from the waist up. So there's no genitalia that is being shown during these photographs. But the 20th photograph shows him sitting in this shower. And you do see the lower right quadrant of his posterior. And that photograph was taken at 5:30. So he was in the shower for approximately 8 minutes with these photographs being taken. Well, that again starts to narrow it down. And then there's
Okay, so did she just go in there like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna kill him? Or were they like messing around and then maybe they started talking and then maybe Travis said something like, I'm still going tomorrow or something. And then, oh no, because she had to go get the knife, right? So she went out and got the knife in the room. I think she was gonna ditch it. Yeah, I agree, Kimmy. If they found on her to evidence, she thought it was destroyed in the washer. She's no mastermind.
finally a third set of photographs. And these are accidental photographs. These are inadvertent photographs. These are photographs that the killer did not want taken. And the first one of those is 44 seconds, taken 44 seconds after the photograph of Mr. Alexander's posterior in the shower. And that's taken at 5:31:14. I'm sorry, yes, that is taken at 5:31:14. So it's 44 seconds after the last photograph in the shower. And this is, if you will, a photograph of movement. And the reason that I say it's a photograph of movement is because it's taken, or it's consistent with being taken from the waist. The camera is straight up. In other words, it's not upside down, it's not to the side, it's straight up. But the photograph is a picture of the lights above the shower, and it's nothing more than movement. But that's when the attack is happening, and that's when Mr. Alexander is being attacked by this individual. The next inadvertent photograph is at 5:32:16, 1 minute and 2 seconds later. And that photograph is taken right here, near that 45. And it's another inadvertent photograph. And this photograph is consistent with the camera being taken off from the shoulder, the lanyard that's around it, and falling. But the camera is actually on the ground now and upside down. So this photograph is upside down. All the other photographs have been right side up, which is consistent with the camera falling here, striking the click, or striking the button and taking a photograph. And you do see the killer in this one. You see this individual's here. You see her foot. Not only you see her foot, but you see Mr. Alexander's head. You see his arm. You see him bleeding profusely. You see the area of the sink down here. And you know what else you see? You see her manipulating him, trying to drag him or move him. And we know she moved.
That's what I meant. That's why I said, like, was she trying to take pictures like trophy photos and there was possibly more of like what she had done and then she dropped it or put it over her shoulder and then was doing everything else, cleaning up, and then took those on accident. And then who's on the stand? I don't know. I've just been listening and watching him. Yeah, because there's other photos they couldn't retrieve, right? The last one where he's like looking into it like.
Because he ends up in the shower. So we do know that he's here for sure. Well,
He looks scared.
She begins to pull him towards the shower. And there's another photograph that's inadvertently taken 1 minute and 16 seconds later at 5:33:32. And this photograph again is
I thought you were talking about the guy in the blue shirt. I was like, I don't know who that is.
So the camera had not been moved, apparently, from the previous photograph. And this one is consistent with somebody stepping on the camera and there being a photo that it's taken. And on this one, what you do see is the shoulder of Mr. Alexander. You see the trim, and it's a little bit further down this hallway. It's this person that's in court here today. Drags him down in this direction. So the police now know what happened. They know that on June 4th of 2008, starting around in the afternoon, sometime after 1 o'clock, the defendant is there with Mr. Alexander. Even though they've broken up, even though she's in �WYRECA, somehow she's there in his house in Mesa, Arizona. They know that they engage in what is clearly one of the normal things of our species, and that's sexual intercourse. They enjoyed themselves. Yes, from a religious perspective, both of them were sinning. But she's there, and she's there from �WYRECA. She took 1,000 miles to get to that sinning. Then we know that at 5:30-ish, later on, he's in the shower. They know that whatever's going on, his defenses are down, he's very comfortable. We also know then that as he sat there, she took the knife and began to stab him when he was in that defenseless sitting position and stuck the knife in his chest. He struggled. He grabbed the knife. And when he grabbed the knife, of course that resulted in more blood. But since he's not going to die immediately, he's going to die from the loss of blood, and he hasn't lost consciousness, he began to go around the bathroom and ends up at the sink, hunched over. We know that he receives a lot of stab wounds to the back, and they're grouped, and also to his head. We know that he was stationary at that point when he gets to that sink. So we don't know exactly where, but it could be, it's consistent with him then being stabbed at that point as he continues to bleed out. And this bleeding out process is not immediate. He can speak, he can talk, blood may be flowing from his mouth, but he can still make noises, he can still move until he starts to lose strength. We know that, we can say at least, that it's consistent with him then trying to get away. And he got as far as here, the entry to the major part of the bedroom. And we know that because of the photographs that we have. And we also know because of the big blotch of blood that's there. And that's where the slitting ear to ear took place. He was still alive at that point. That's why there's so much blood. Because when you die, the medical examiner will tell you, you can do whatever you want to the body. But if you're already dead, there's not going to be this spurting of blood. There's not going to be this blood that's out there. So he was still alive then. We also know that that is a rapidly mortal wound. And in light of the fact that he was already bleeding, he was more likely than not dead at that point. And by the time she was dragging him down, pulling him down towards this area right here, he didn't need that shot to the head. But she had a gun somewhere. She got that gun. We don't know the distance. And part of the reason we don't know the distance is because the body's decomposed. But do know that she put that bullet right in his temple. And that also would have been rapidly fatal. That injury would have also rendered him unconscious. So after that, she took that camera. At some point, knowing what was on there, and you know how difficult it is to deal with these cameras, she was able to go through the process and deleted all of the photographs. She took time to drag him, put him in the shower, clean him up, doing away with whatever evidence may be on there.
She dragged him.
Clean the area there, even though it's still very bloody. Took a towel to clean up. Walked downstairs. Remember, he's got this dog Napoleon there. Walked downstairs. Went to the washing machine. Stuck everything in the washing machine. And had the wherewithal to start it. And put the camera in there after she deleted all of those photographs. Police knew that that's who she was. But they had something else that they needed to deal with. Because as I told you, this happened on June 4th. It was a Wednesday. The body wasn't discovered until Monday, the 9th of June. On the 10th of June, which is when, since everything happened at night, the investigation really took off on the 10th. Detective Steve Flores of the Mesa Police Department,
Yeah,
received
she
a
used the
telephone
sheet.
call from somebody
Yeah, she used the sheet.
wanting to help. This person here called him up, wanted to help him out, and started to talk about how their relationship with Travis Alexander, how she was in Yreka, California at this time that this happened, could not have had anything to do with this at all. She was asked, well, does Mr. Alexander have any guns? Oh, no. Mr. Alexander has no guns whatsoever. All he could do for him to defend himself, all he had was his fist. How about knives? Did he have any knives? Oh, no knives. Oh, not Mr. Alexander. He didn't have any of that. Not Travis. So she's telling them he didn't have a gun there. So that the killers, whoever they were, according to her, brought them with them. The other thing that she says is that, well, you may want to start looking. She gives them a lead. You may want to start looking at one of his roommates, a guy by the last name of Brown, Thomas Brown. That's who you really need to look at, because, if you're really looking for people, that's the person who you may want to look at, because I wasn't there. According to her, the last time she was there was in April of 2008. So how could it be her, since this happened on June 4th, 2008? So it really couldn't have been her. Well, at that time, of course, the police know. They've seen photographs. They already know they got fingerprints there. So they know that perhaps isn't the truth. Well, they know it isn't the truth. It's not a perhaps proposition. And so, but this detective keeps talking to her. And she says, it really wasn't me. I didn't have anything to do with it, and describes this relationship that she had with Mr. Alexander. The police need to do something with that, because she has made it a point of saying she wasn't there. I couldn't have possibly been there. And so they start looking further at a possibility of where she was and that sort of thing. And one of the things that they're able to discover is that a week before this killing on June 4th of 2008, on May 28, 2008, there was a burglary report, seemingly unrelated to this case. There was a burglary report up in Yreka, California, where she was, May 28, 2008. And the burglary, the police responded sometime around 3:30 in the afternoon of May 28th, which was about a week before Mr. Alexander was.
I bet they're still traumatized from this, his family, with those pictures and stuff. This case taught me so much. If you ever plan to off anyone, do not take nudes beforehand, or the whole world may see them. Sad but true. I know, not funny but true, but funny. Just go. I don't know who that is. Yeah, his family. I know. Wait, why, Elijah? Oh, your headache. You still have a headache. Oh, I hope you get better soon.
Killed. And they responded to a house on Pine Street, the house where the defendant was living back on May 28th of 2008. And the police did talk to the defendant about it. And there were items that were taken during this burglary. But according to the officer that responded, Kevin Friedman of the Yreka Police Department, well, something not right about this burglary. I mean, maybe the entry, there was a little bit of a problem. It was just like they were very careful how they entered. They opened the drawers, but, there were items that clearly were of value that they didn't take. And, well, it just didn't seem quite right. When he went there were two people there, the grandparents, but the defendant wasn't there. She was called and showed up and indicated that she had been the last person there and had been there as late as approximately 1 p.m. And the burglary was reported sometime around 3:30. So it happened between 1 and 3:30 p.m. And the defendant reported, oh, yes, there was some items that were taken of mine. There was a $20 bill and a $10 bill, so there was $30 that were taken of mine. And luckily for me, before I left, I was able to hide my laptop underneath some dirty clothing. So just in case somebody came in and wanted to steal stuff, they didn't take my laptop. And thank God I did that, because they didn't take my laptop. Well, those were some of the things that were taken, and some of the things that weren't taken. But one of the things that was taken was a .25 caliber handgun belonging to the grandfather. And this is just a week before the killing. And it matched in the sense that it's the same caliber, the .25 caliber casing that is labeled number 1 and is found by the sink. Well, the police looked at that and knew that there was a time. It was very close in time. The other thing that police were able to find was that on that same day, May 28th of 2008, at 9:25 p.m., the defendant sent an email. And she sent an email to Travis Alexander. And she mentions that he's going to Cancun. That's the first mention there is in any of their correspondence, whether it be text messaging, whether it be emails or instant messaging, of Cancun. And she indicates that she knows that he's going to Cancun. It is clear now that he's going to Cancun and she ain't going with him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that they have. The other thing that they start looking around and they're able to find is that the defendant on June 2nd, which is 2 days before the killing, actually went from 𝐌𝐞𝐥𝐥𝐲, California to Redding, California, which is maybe 1 to 2 hours away, south. And she went south for the purpose of renting a car. They have car rental agencies in 𝐌𝐞𝐥𝐿, but she actually went to a different town that's approximately 90 miles away. And she went to a budget rent-a-car, and she spoke to the agent there. And one of the things that she was able to do is rent a car. But again, it was not in her town, and it was in a place that's far away. And the person who rented the car to her, well, he was shown a photographic lineup. And he said, and asked whether or not he saw the person that he rented the car to. He said, oh yeah, there she is, right there, the defendant. He said, but the photograph that you're showing me, she's got black hair. When she came to rent the car from me, she was a blonde. So, it's the same girl, I'm sure of that. But her
hair
color changed. Her hair color changed from June 2nd to June 4th in the afternoon when she was having sex with Mr. Alexander. So we know that from the...
Oh, Alicia, I just saw your message. You should get that checked out. You should get that checked out for sure, especially if it's been a few days. I haven't seen that movie. Yeah, so I'm excited to watch the trial. Someone said this is the best trial. I think Divine.
The photograph. And she rented the car and said she was going to return it on June 6th of 2008. And in fact, she returned it on June 7th of 2008. And there was over 2,000 miles on that car. One of the other things that police were able to do is that they were able to find receipts. And they were able to show that the defendant, in fact, and she readily admits this now, that she did take a trip. She took a trip, but she was going to go to Utah, according to her. She was going to go to Utah because she has a love interest there, or somebody that could potentially be a love interest, by the name of Ryan Burns. And she was going to visit him, not only visit him, but she was also going there to maybe do some marketing with PPL on this Thursday afternoon, which would have been the 5th of June. And so they're able to see that she goes to Southern California, stops at places like Starbucks there in the evening, sometime around 9 o'clock in the evening, and giving her plenty of time to be there the next day. So they're able to see that not only does she have the opportunity, she actually is placed near the area of California, which would have been a short is a relative term, drive to Mesa. So when she said to the police back on June 10th of 2008 that she hadn't been there, well, the police knew now that that was not true because they could trace her movements. Well, the other thing that they were able to find
That's
came out is
crazy.
that
We're going to keep the news
At this time.
thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please be back in the designated area at 1:30. Please remember the admonition. I'm going to ask that you review the admonition. It is in your black binder. You should have it in writing. You are excused.
We left off before lunch talking about the police investigation into the defendant's statement that she was not at Mr. Alexander's home on June 4th of 2008. And specifically, we were talking about the police obtaining documents that showed that she rented a car in Redding, California on June 2nd, and that they were able to show that she actually made her way down south in California, and made her way down to Southern California, and at some point made her way over to Utah. And ostensibly, she indicated that she was going to Utah to meet up with a friend, somebody that she had a romantic interest in, somebody by the name of Brian Burns. And what Mr. Burns will tell you is that she was supposed to arrive a day earlier. And somehow, for this whole period of time, couldn't get a hold of her. Tried to call her, she wouldn't call him back. We know now that the reason that was is because she was with Mr. Alexander. But she did happen to arrive in the Salt Lake City, Utah area on June 5th, June 5th, which was that Thursday. And as she got there sometime around a little bit before 11 o'clock, Mr. Burns indicated that he had to go to a meeting, and that if she wanted to go with him, that she could follow him in her car, the rental car that she was driving. As
I can't believe then she tried to make it look like she was hanging out with him too. That's
they were driving in West Jordan, Utah, and
Like an
officer with the
alibi?
West Jordan Police Department
like an alibi, pretty much.
stopped her in that
That's an
vehicle.
alibi.
And the reason they stopped her in that car was because there was a problem with her license plate. There are two plates that are required in Utah, and in fact, there are two plates that are provided and required in California. So when the car was rented, there was a front plate and there was also a back plate. Well, the car that she was driving did not have a front plate. So between the time that she rented it and the time that she was stopped, somebody took that plate off. Additionally, the reason that she was stopped is that the plate in the back had been turned upside down. And so the police officer stopped the car, and he will come in. His name's Michael Gaglietti, and he will tell you that the person that was driving the car was the defendant. And she provided some story about being at Starbucks, and that somehow some of the kids were trying to play a trick and took the license plate off the car and put one of the license plates inside the car, and then somehow turned the other license plate upside down. Well, she continues on with Mr. Burns, and then at some point the meeting is over. They go back to his place, and what seems to be something with her is that the inevitable happens. They do begin to become engaged amorously. They begin to kiss. They begin to get involved in that sort of fashion. And Mr. Burns will tell you that, yes, they did go further than that. And in fact, he will say that he had his hands between her legs. And he will also say that the reason that they didn't go all the way or continue on to sexual intercourse is because he's Mormon. And his teachings, which I've been telling you about, do not allow for that sort of behavior, if you will. And so it wasn't that the defendant was stopping him, it was that he decided not to go any further than that. And then the police also determined that the car was finally returned on the 7th of June back to the budget rent-a-car in Redding, California. Well, the police, now knowing that there was this trip that was planned, they have the photograph, they now have the DNA, and they also have the fingerprints, arrested the defendant for the first-degree murder of Travis Alexander. And as part of that process of the arrest, the police conducted or spoke with the defendant. And of course, prior to speaking with the defendant, they admonished her of the Miranda warnings. They talked to her about what the Miranda warnings were, and she agreed to speak with them. And these are videotaped. And this was on June 15th of 2008. And they arrested her while she was in this home on Pine Street, the home that she lived there with her grandparents, the home where there was this burglary on May 28th of 2008. And when they spoke with her on that June 15th,
Yeah, and the whole setting up of the burglary too to get the GUN, she really did plan it out.
the defendant said, well,
Why?
I'll talk to you about it, but I don't, other than what I've already told you, I don't know too much about it. Well, why don't you tell us what you do know? Well, I can tell you that the last time that I was there was back in April of 2008. That's what she told me. And they said, well, are you sure? I mean, we have some photographs of you there. She said, well, are you sure they weren't taken on a different date? No, we're sure they weren't taken on a different date. Well, I wasn't there. It wasn't me. Well, what about this time lapse? What about this gap where you sort of disappear? You're supposed to be in Utah with this other boyfriend of yours, and yet you can't be found. People are making calls, there are no calls going out, nothing going in. What about that time? I got lost. What ended up happening is that I ended up getting lost, and I got so lost I almost can't tell you where I was. But I do know one thing, she said. I ended up on the 40, the I-40. And the detective said to her, how can that be possible? If you're coming from California and you're going to Salt Lake City, Utah, how is it possible, since the road goes northeast, the 15 goes northeast and takes you through Las Vegas that way? Why? The only way that you can get on the 40 is if you come through Mesa and then you come up that way. You couldn't have been on the 40. There's no way that you could have. Oh, yes, I was. She said, I can get lost with the best of them. I slept.
I think she scared Travis too. I think he knew exactly what she was capable of. And I think that her family knew exactly too. Hey, Joey, good to see you. She even used and scared her own grandparents. Yeah, exactly. The prosecutor's crushing it. I know he does amazing. I bet Jodi is drawing hearts. She's painting.
My car and my phone, the reason no one was able to get a hold of me was that it wasn't charged up. It has lost its charge. The police kept saying, but that doesn't make any sense. Why would you say that that's what happened? And if you're going to Salt Lake City, how can you say that you actually came through the 40 and then up through Las Vegas that way? She kept to her story and said, no, I was never there on June 4th, 2008. But, so the police left it at that. The next day, she indicated a willingness to continue talking to the police officers, and that was July 16th. And she was again read her Miranda warnings. And this time, when she spoke to the police officer, she said, I got to tell you something. I really have to tell you something. Maybe what I told you yesterday.
Yeah, I love Travis. He's so good to me. Yeah, please hit the like. Did she ever say why she did it? No. No, and the weapons haven't been found either. Right? This whole time. She's never even admitted what she did with them.
Well, maybe that's not the truth. What I really have to tell you today is what happened. And what ended up happening is, and I'm just incredibly scared for my family. I'm just totally scared for my brother, my sister, my family, my grandparents. Because
yeah, so no. She reminds me of, like when they don't tell where the body is, like Harmony Montgomery. A .25 caliber gun and a knife, they were never recovered. The bullet casing was found at the scene, but the actual firearm was not, and neither was the knife.
As a result of this killing, well, the people that really did this killing.
Yeah, she does maintain her innocence. I think she's trying for an appeal, right? Or wait, who was that we were talking about? Was that Kenzie? No, I'm getting them confused.
They're the ones. These are the people that are out to get my parents. So, although I told you yesterday.
No, because Jodi's the one that's already exhausted her appeals. She's continuing to pursue potential post-conviction relief. She's serving a lot as of late 2025, early 2026. She signaled intentions to pursue legal challenges, potentially through post-conviction relief to challenge her conviction.
That I wasn't there. Well, I'm telling you now that I was there. And I can tell you what happened. I arrived there sometime around 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning of June 4th. When I arrived there, Travis was on the computer and he was watching some sort of YouTube thing about some ladies with something on their head. It was just a silly video, and we sat and watched it for a little bit. And after watching that for a short period of time, well, we went up to bed. Nothing happened. The next day, in the afternoon, you're right, that is me in those photographs. That's me, and yes, we are engaged in intimacies. We're having sex. The other thing that's also true is that, well, those photographs, 20 that I talked to you about, I was the one that was the photographer. I was the one that was taking those photographs. I was the one that talked him into standing and posing for me. He really didn't want to pose for me. He thought it was just not his cup of tea, but you know, he sort of did it for me. And so I began to take the photographs of him. As I'm taking these photographs of him, I hear this loud noise. And something hits me. And I really can't, I don't know if, I think I went unconscious. I'm not sure I went unconscious, but I think I did. And then I realized that Travis is hurt. I don't know how it happened, but I realized that Travis is hurt. And he's on all fours. And he's saying, help me, or words to that effect. He can't get up. And I'm trying to help him. I'm trying to do the best I can to get him out of there, to get him up so we can leave. That's what I'm doing, she says. I'm trying to do the best that I can. But he can't seem to get up because there's a problem with his legs. He says he can't move. Well, while I'm trying to do this, I realized that, and again, I didn't tell you yesterday because I was afraid. But what is going on is that there's these two individuals. First, she really doesn't know what their sexes are, but comes around and says, it's a man and it's a woman. Not only is it a man and a woman, but
on top of everything she did, then she makes up that crazy story too. Yeah, men are paying her honey buns. Yeah, I think she has a boyfriend and a girlfriend.
all I could see are their eyes. I can tell you, I guess, she said that they're Caucasian. Maybe she can tell you that. But other than that, I don't have any way of identifying who these attackers are.
Yeah.
And according to them, it appears
I can't believe that's what she said too.
that I surprised them, that I shouldn't have been there. Because one of them said words to the effect that, you know, that's that girl from California. I wasn't supposed to be there, that these people were designed to take care of Travis for whatever reason they had. And I don't know what that reason is. They were there to do him harm. Well, what kind of weapons did they have? Well, she said, I think they had one or two guns. I'm really not sure. All I know is that I was focused on Travis. I had been hit myself. I didn't know what to do. And so what happened then?
I'm assuming they allow conjugal visits where she is.
Well, Travis kept saying to go to the neighbors for help, but I didn't want to leave him there. And at one point, what I did was that I was able to, and it depends on what point the story is picked up, but I pushed the girl who was there, and I was able to get the better of her, and I was about to run out, get out and go get some help, except that I was then confronted by the guy. And the girl kept saying, well, just do her. And the guy didn't want to do it. But I had the gun straight at my face. And this gun that was pointed at my face, well, he pulled the trigger. And for whatever reason, Providence perhaps, gun didn't go off. But I was very worried still about Travis, and I needed to get him out of there. When the gun didn't go off, well, this guy started looking through my purse. And lo and behold, in my purse, believe it or not, I happen to have my car registration that shows my address, because that's what I carry around. So they knew, they being this guy, knew exactly where I lived. And he said to me, well, if you tell what happened here, the same thing's going to happen to your family. So she then told the detective, how could you expect me to say anything? At some point, she also indicates that she is fighting with the woman. She claims that she's barefoot and that the woman may have hit her feet, but she was able to hit the woman also. The detective asked, well, what about a knife? Did a knife ever come up?
Yeah, that story, the ninja story, makes no sense, because if she was fighting the female off, they would have just unalived her. Right?
She said, I think the woman was the one that had the knife. And when you were going through all these things, and she says everything happened in the bathroom, when you were going through all these things, what was Travis doing? What was going on with Travis? Well, he was alive. It looks like he was really in a lot of pain. But there wasn't anything I could do because he couldn't get up. I tried. I did the best that I could. I fought with the girl. I had the gun pointed at me. I mean, they already knew where I lived. Just by looking at it, they knew my address, and they, I guess, had committed to memory. So I was worried about my family. So there was nothing I could do. So what happened next? Well, I was able to pick up my purse, and the police did not find any articles of clothing there from her. I was able, she said, to pick up my purse, run out of the house, run downstairs, and nobody chased me. And then I was able to get in the car, and I was able to drive away and make my getaway. Why didn't you call the police? She was asked. Well, don't you know? My phone wasn't charged up. That's why I couldn't dial. That's what the problem was. Never called the police from there all the way to Utah. There never was a call. The only call came from Murray Hall on June 9th. Well, that's her version.
Wilson said, how old were they? Well, at the time of the murder, she was 27. Whoa. So she's 45 years old now. Holy cow. Really? When was she convicted? Yeah. Wow.
And after that version, the defendant seemed to want an audience. And she began to go on national television to talk about it. And basically, that was her story, that there had been two other individuals that had done it. And in fact, she went on a show called Inside Edition, which will be exhibit number 247, and she talked to them about this.
No, I've never even shot her.
So Travis was 30. He was older when he was killed, yeah.
You did not stab him 27 times.
That's heinous.
Or
I've never.
slit his throat from ear to ear.
I can't imagine slitting anyone's throat.
Let's see if we can hear that again.
I understand
Yeah.
everything. All of the evidence against me right now is very compelling.
What really happened in there?
In a nutshell, 2 people took Travis's life, 2 monsters.
You did not shoot Travis.
No, I've never even shot a real gun.
You did not stab him 27 times.
That's heinous.
Or
I've never.
slit his throat from ear to ear.
I can't imagine slitting anyone's throat.
That was her story in part. That's a summary of the story that she told the detective.
We're going to rewatch some of her older interviews for sure.
Well, there's a different story now. Now, it's not that she wasn't there. Now, it's not that it's 2 people with whatever variation she may have provided to these national shows. Now, she admits it. It was her. She's the person who actually did this. And she's the person that actually did, even though she says otherwise, She's the one that did the stabbing. She's the one that slit his throat. And she's the one that shot him. She's the one that now is admitting that after telling all these things. And even though she says that, she still has a view as to the evidence. And this is exhibit number 248.
No jury is going to convict me
Why not?
because I'm innocent. And you can mark my words on that one. No jury will convict me.
I also ask that you mark her words that no jury will convict her, even though she has admitted that she's the person that did this after giving many or different stories of what happened. And as you mark,
No, I believe she stabbed him in the heart, and I think then she shot him, right?
her words, I ask you, while you're doing that in your final deliberations, that you remember that while you're marking the guilty verdict for her premeditated killing of Travis Alexander. Thank you.
The defense opening isn't very long, so let's just watch it so we could start day one tomorrow night. I think it's like 20 something minutes long, so it's not too bad. And then we're gonna do Nancy Guthrie, I believe, next, or Epstein. It's already scheduled. So shout out to you guys for being here. Watch the defense.
ARIAS killed Travis Alexander. There is no question about it. The $1 million question is what would have forced her to do it.
Hey, Ramon.
And throughout this trial, you will hear that JODI was indeed forced. In just under 2 minutes, we go from the last picture taken of Travis in the shower, in just under 2 minutes, to the picture of Travis's body. You can see the foot in the front with his head and his shoulders, and blood clearly on his shoulders. In just those 2 minutes, JODI had to make a choice. She would either live or she would die. JODI did not always tell the truth about what happened that night. She was scared. Scared about what had happened and scared about what she had done. She had absolutely no experience with police interrogation before.
Yeah, that was not self-defense. I can't even believe they tried that. It was so much overkill. Forced. I know. We're screaming. Boy, that's a bad opening statement. Like 27 times and shot him.
And so when they
28.
talked to her, she wasn't always truthful. Her fear and her panic about what had happened led her to tell different stories. But you will learn that what she said, those stories, were not the truth. Throughout this trial, you will learn more about JODI ARIAS, much more about JODI. You will find that she's an articulate, bright young woman who is a very talented artist and photographer. But most of all, what you'll learn is that JODI loved Travis. And so what would have forced her to have to take Travis's life on that awful day? In order to answer that question, we have to go back to the beginning, back to just before she and Travis first met. Now, Travis and JODI met in September of 2006. At that time, JODI was in a relationship, a long-term relationship with Daryl Brewer. JODI and Daryl had been together for 4 years at that point. Now, JODI and Daryl first met when JODI was working at the Ventana Inn and Spa. And Daryl was actually her boss, but she was quickly promoted to event planner, and when she was promoted, he was no longer her boss. And so the two began to date. And at the time, Daryl had just gotten through a very difficult divorce, and he really had no intentions of getting married again. But despite that, they still embarked on a relationship to see where it was going to lead them. Well, it was serious enough that in June of 2005, they both put money down on a house and bought a house together in Palm Desert, California. Now, Prepaid Legal has 2 big conventions a year, and they had just had their convention in March, which Jodi missed because she was just signing up. And so the next convention was in September. And the person who signed her up really talked to her about how important it is to go to these conventions so you can learn more about how to get people to buy insurance and so forth. And so in September of 2006, it was with the hope of gaining more financial stability that Jodi, Michelle, and another girlfriend hopped in the car and drove up to Vegas. That's where the convention was being held. And it was actually being held at the MGM Grand. Now, the idea of this convention is that it is a long weekend full of meetings. Meetings about how great prepaid legal is, and as long as you can sell what they're trying to sell and you can get people to buy, you can stand to make a lot of money. And so lots of the parts of these meetings are people giving speeches about how to do it and why to do it and how much money you can make. After one of these meetings one day, Jodi was having lunch with some of her friends that she had just met and some of the friends that she came with. They were at the Rainforest Cafe in the MGM.
This case kind of reminds me, and I can't wait for �W𝐞𝐥𝐥𝐲 trial to start in April. But that's also one that claims self-defense.
Grand. And she was standing just outside the Rainforest Cafe. There was a group of people, and she sees one man across the way. That man walks right up to her, makes a beeline, and says, "Hi, my name's Travis Alexander." That is how Jodi and Travis first met. They spent, over the rest of the weekend, Travis spent a lot of time with Jodi, wowing her about how important he was, because he was actually an executive director in prepaid legal, which means he was at a higher level in the company. He had a lot of people signing up underneath him, which pushes him up to a higher level. She learned that because he was an executive director, that he would get to go to the executive director banquets. And after meeting Jodi, he invited Jodi to go. And so although it's a place that she normally wouldn't get to go because she had just signed up, she got to go to this executive banquet.
Hey, 𝐸𝐸𝐿 in the house. What's up, Mikey? Thanks for tapping in. We're covering Jodi Arias, as you can see. Everyone go follow and sub up to 𝐸𝐸𝐿. I'll drop the link. It's my homie. Dope channel over there too. Go, go, go. Subscribe.
He also invited her to sit in the front seats. So at these meetings, usually the front seats, the front rows, are reserved for people who are considered important in prepaid legal. It wouldn't have been Jodi at that time. But because of Travis and his invitation, she got to sit up front. He took her through a tour of the casino. They talked and talked and talked. And in fact, at one point, they sat on a bench in the casino to the wee hours of the morning, where at some point, Travis actually tried to kiss Jodi. But Jodi had to stop him and remind him that she had a boyfriend, Daryl.
Did she really stop him?
During the time that they spent together, Jodi learned a lot about Travis. Not only was he an executive director at Prepaid Legal, but he, being an executive director, he made many speeches at these conventions to try and get people to sign up at Prepaid Legal. Not only that, he was a Mormon, which is a religion that really emphasizes and values marriage and children. And they spoke a lot about that weekend. Jodi was captivated. After the convention, Travis kept in touch with Jodi. They talked on the phone for hours. They continued talking and texting after the convention. And in fact, it was just 4 days after the convention when Jodi had a sit-down talk with Daryl. They talked about the relationship, how it wasn't really progressing, and they eventually broke up. Daryl moved into a different bedroom within their own house. It was only the following weekend after the convention, about a week and a half after the convention ended, that Travis convinced Jodi to come and meet him at his friend's house in Murrieta, California. And that was Chris and Sky Hughes. And JODI agreed. So she drove up to meet Travis with his friends at their house and spent the weekend with him. It was that weekend, a week and a half after first meeting Travis,
Wow.
that they introduced her to the Mormon church, and they took her to church. It was a few days after that, the following Wednesday, that Travis, on his way home from California, stopped back to Mesa,
Yeah, sorry, Daryl, but she left you for Travis. Yeah.
Arizona, stopped in Palm Desert, California, to see JODI once more. And when he stopped, he met JODI at a Starbucks. It was at that Starbucks that they had some more discussions, and that was when Travis gave JODI the Book of Mormon. Shortly after that visit at Starbucks, Travis sent missionaries, Mormon missionaries, to JODI's house in Palm Desert. And those missionaries came to visit her once a week, from the end to the end of September all the way through October.
Wow.
The missionaries would have sit-down talks with JODI, discuss the LDS Church, discuss the Book of Mormon, and all the good reasons why it was to join and convert. And so, in November of 2006, just 2 months after meeting Travis, Travis convinced JODI to convert to Mormonism. Now, not only was Travis portrayed as an important member of prepaid legal, but he was—
Wait, so she slept with him, and then tried to convert? Is that what I'm understanding? Napoleon Chicana says, I wonder what happened to Napoleon. Somebody said something last live. Did a friend take Napoleon?
a very important member of the Mormon Church as well. He was a temple member. And a temple member is not just a member of the church. A temple member is special. It's special because in order to become a temple member, one has to actually live what they consider a worthy life. And a worthy life is someone who has—
Oh, so his ex-girlfriend took him at the time. Because who knows if he's still with us, right? Because, well, that's really dark, but it was a long time ago. Deanna, his ex-girlfriend, has him because she wanted to marry him. Oh,
no alcohol, no
look at her here. She looks like psycho.
tobacco, no tea, no coffee.
Weird
And
outfit.
above
Yeah.
all, that person has no sex without marriage of any kind. It was a prestigious honor to be a member of a temple member, and Travis was. He was someone to be admired to JODI. He was a good Mormon man that she had met. And in November, Travis baptized JODI into the Mormon Church. Now, Travis and JODI took many trips together during the time that they knew each other. They, JODI is a wonderful photographer, and so much of their trips are actually documented in photographs. And so they took a lot of trips together for church trips, in other words, going to visit different Mormon churches, special places for the Mormon church, and then just trips together. Certainly on the outside, looking in, it really appeared like they were involved in a very loving and healthy relationship.
I mean, I'm sure some people do convert, but I wonder if that wasn't like a red flag to him. Obviously not. A lot of people please their church just to be able to speak up. True.
But nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, behind the smiles in these photographs, there was a whole nother reality for JODI. A reality that Travis created. Because in reality, JODI was Travis's dirty little secret. From the moment, despite projecting himself as a good and virginal Mormon man, someone who was a temple member, from the moment he met JODI, he was pushing and pushing her to have a sexual relationship.
I'm not like super familiar with the religion, but just respectfully, they try to get you. Oh, okay. We don't care if she's good at art. Yeah, we don't.
relationship with him.
We don't give a
And
shit.
it took just about a week
actually.
because the weekend that they met at Chris and Sky Hughes' house, he got what he wanted. As Travis would explain to Jodi, oral sex really isn't as much of a sin for him as vaginal sex. And so he was able to convince her to give him oral sex. And later in their relationship, Travis would tell her that anal sex really isn't much of a sin compared to vaginal sex. And so he was able to persuade her to allow him to have anal sex with her.
What? Oh my gosh.
Being a Temple member and an executive director
Forgot that part.
of prepaid legal, outward appearances would be very important to Travis. And so while he continued this facade of being a good and virginal Mormon man, he was inwardly dealing with his own sexual issues. And in Jodi, he found somebody who was easily manipulated and controlled. Someone who would provide him with that secretive sexual relationship that he needed. While on the outside, he can still pursue the appropriate Mormon woman.
Whoa.
Jodi wanted nothing but to please Travis. And in doing that,
I hate that she put his family through all of that, and then she still comes to court and says that he beat her and he was a sex fiend.
At points during their relationship, he would tell her, you know, you really maybe you ought to see somebody else, date somebody else. But the moment that Jodi would ever even text another man or talk to another man, Travis would instantly degrade her, yell at her, embarrass her, and humiliate her. And so Jodi learned very quickly how to deal with Travis's temper. She learned how to deal with his temper by being humble, compliant, and agreeable. And that was one good way to help avoid his temper.
Mm-hmm.
Jodi officially broke up with Travis in June of 2007. And this June of 2007 was, she broke up with him because she found out that despite having sex with Jodi and saying things like he loved her, he was pursuing other women. And so because of that, Jodi broke up with him. But Travis didn't want to break up. Travis begged her for forgiveness. And even though they were
is that true?
considered officially broken up, they never stopped seeing each other. They never stopped talking with each other or emailing or texting.
I believe he was willingly, obviously, hooking up with her after the fact, but I don't believe he was begging her to get back together. Unless we go through that in the text messages, which I haven't done, but I have them, or at least some of them.
Now, at the time that they broke up, Jodi was living in Big Sur, California, and Travis was living in Mesa, Arizona. In July of 2007, Travis sent Jodi a poem that basically apologized for his behavior and asked her to be with him. Later in July of 2007, Jodi actually flew out to see Travis in Mesa and spent the weekend with him. That weekend sealed the deal because Travis showered her with attention, was nothing but sweet and kind. And so shortly
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think he realized how she was, and I think he was hooking up with her. I think he was doing that. Yeah, I guess some could say he was playing games with her, like just a hookup buddy. But I don't think he was like, oh, I want to marry her. I think he saw her true colors, which is really sad.
after that, Jodi moved from Big Sur, California to Mesa, Arizona. She moved in with a girlfriend of hers she knew from the Mormon church. Now, despite the attention that Travis paid to Jodi in private, he treated her far differently in the public eye. You'll hear how Travis degraded Jodi to his friends. You'll hear that he often referred to her as a stalker or claimed that she was crazy.
Yes.
But
That's not degrading, ma'am. That's just the truth.
and if she did anything like speak with another man or text another man, he would further degrade her by calling her names like slut and whore. He would text her these things and email her these things.
Oh.
The more that Travis distanced himself from Jodi to his friends, the easier it was for him to keep control of her and to keep for his own sexual needs. Now, one of the witnesses that you'll hear from is named Alice LaViolette. Miss LaViolette is an expert in dealing with domestic violence. She has decades of experience with domestic violence counseling, and in fact, she started, I think, in 1978, counseling battered women in shelters. But today, her specialty is treating people for domestic violence. She treats the victims of domestic violence, but she also treats the abusers.
This totally reminds me of the 𝐌𝐞𝐥𝐥𝐲 case coming up, the trial. Divine says family was important to him. He wasn't about to be with Jodi when his sisters didn't like him. Yeah, exactly.
Domestic violence. Miss LaViolette will explain to you how domestic violence relationships are created. She will explain to you that they are not created overnight. And she'll also talk to you about how in domestic violence, when we refer to domestic violence, we're not always talking about physical violence. In fact, a lot of times domestic violence comes from control through verbal abuse. She'll talk to you about the difficulty with domestic violence and how a lot of times domestic violence goes unreported and unprosecuted. She'll talk to you about the reasons for that, because a lot of domestic violence victims are ashamed of what happens to them. Domestic violence victims sometimes fear that their abuser is going to get even more violent if they actually report it. And sometimes domestic violence victims believe and hope that the abuser will change, like he promises he's going to. Most importantly, Ms. LaViolette will talk to you about why domestic violence victims have.
I believe there was none of the other girlfriends said that. Yeah, she did accuse him of being a PDF file to little boys. Could you imagine, like, for his family to hear that too? None of the other girlfriends said anything like that.
Don't have the same ability that everybody else does to make that decision to leave. Because if somebody is abusing you, get up and leave. Ms. LaViolette will explain to you that it is not an easy decision to make for somebody who has been abused, because there's a lot of psychological components that go into that decision. Now, the best evidence of Travis's manipulation of Jodi is his insistence to others that Jodi stalked him. His insistence to others that Jodi wouldn't leave him alone.
It's true.
But yet it was always at his demand and his beckoning that Jodi spent time with him.
Yeah, so like a booty call.
In fact, at one point during their relationship, Travis even had a t-shirt made. A t-shirt made proclaiming his ownership of Jodi. Now, I know that in some circles, and certainly in some relationships, maybe that would be considered cute or funny. But if you understand the inner workings of the relationship between Travis and Jodi, that t-shirt is a perfect example of how Travis treated Jodi. Oftentimes, in April of 2008, Jodi had enough, because Jodi found out that once again, Travis was pursuing other women. Even though he was having her in his bed, Travis was still pursuing other women, and in April of 2008, Jodi had enough. She moved from Mesa, Arizona, back to California, to �W𝐞𝐥𝐥𝐲, which is where her grandparents live. Even though she moved.
He didn't want to marry you. You had enough, but no, he had enough of you. Is there proof he made it? What do you mean? She did way too much for Travis to forgive her. Yeah.
Travis didn't let her go. He continued emailing, texting, and calling. he guilted her about leaving him. And the thing is, with the type of relationship that they were in.
Yeah, I think she did all of this. I think she's a psychopath, literally.
The minute that Travis was nice to JODI and caring to JODI, she fell right back into that relationship with him. And so even though she left and moved states, they still continued to talk and email and text. In fact, even though they didn't see each other from April of 2008 until June of 2008, Travis was still able to use JODI for his own sexual desires through the phone and phone sex. You'll actually hear a recorded phone call, recorded call between Travis and JODI that's very explicit. And this phone call is made just a couple of weeks before Travis dies. It's clear in this phone call that the both of them are talking about how they're going to find somebody and marry someone else. JODI very clearly knows that Travis is not going to marry her, and she's not going to marry Travis. And they discuss it. Travis talks about how
they discuss it, but that doesn't mean she was cool with it.
Going to Cancun with somebody else. JODI knew that, and she expresses absolutely no dismay about it whatsoever. And this is just weeks before he dies. Most importantly, when you hear this call, it's crucial to understand the difference between the type of person that Travis portrayed himself to be versus the things that he said on this recorded call. Because while he was supposed to be this virginal Mormon man who didn't want to have any type of relationship with JODI and she just wouldn't leave him alone, in this phone call, he talks about his fantasies with JODI of tying her to a tree and putting it, forgive me, in her ass all the way. That's Travis. And then, when JODI pretends to climax during this phone call, Travis tells her that she sounds like a 12-year-old girl who was having an orgasm for the first time. And then he tells her, "It's so hot." These comments are not comments of a man who is being relentlessly stalked and who does not want to have any contact with JODI. These are comments of a man who has a real problem with the comparison to the person he portrays himself to be and who he's supposed to be versus the person, his own private reality, and the person who he really was. So,
ma'am, it's not illegal to be a freak. Like, it's really not. She's acting like it is. Like, two things could be true at once. He didn't want to be with her. She was psycho. Three things. She is a psycho. He saw it, but he wanted to get some ass. Not illegal.
what would have forced JODI?
Chastity.
It was Travis's continual abuse. And on June 4th of 2008, it had reached a point of no return. And sadly, Travis left JODI no other option but to defend herself.
I don't know. The whole 12-year-old thing was like, maybe it's some like freak fetish. I don't know. But okay, so Chris said for Mormons it is though. True. We have to keep that in mind. Chikantu's like, so he's a weirdo. He's just trying to I can't.
On that horrible day, JODI believed that Travis was going to kill her. He threatened to kill her.
Yeah, it is. It basically is illegal for Mormons, right? That's what Cree's getting at. Because I said it's illegal to be a freak, but I guess not like a Mormon professional, but ew, sniffed by, because that's gross. Victim blaming. I could see why that would be a huge deal though, for sure.
And given her experience with him, she had no reason to not believe him. Travis knew that Jodi was planning a trip to Utah because they had talked about it. He knew that she was going to stop along the way and see different friends of hers. He kept asking her to come and see him. And at the last minute, Jodi decided that she would veer off and take a short trip to Mesa to come and see Travis at his beckoning. And so she gets to Mesa early in the morning, around 4 or so in the morning. Travis is in his den, which is downstairs. He's on the computer when she gets there. And we know this because there's a forensic examination done of his computer. So we know he was on the computer at 4 in the morning. Travis wanted to have sex, but Jodi said she was too tired. And so the two went upstairs and they went to sleep. They slept until about 1 in the afternoon. And when they got up at 1 in the afternoon, they began to engage in sexual activity. Travis always had wanted to tie Jodi up. And he had done it before. He had tied her up with rope before, but the rope he had used really hurt her. And so this time he was prepared. He had rope that—
Based on what? Wait. I haven't seen a lot of the trial yet. So is there evidence of that? Or is it just in the text messages? Or is it Jodi's word? Because I don't believe it.
Was soft. The kind of rope that people use for decorating, to hold curtains back. So it's like a softer rope. He had that kind of rope. And he was ready. And so Travis tied Jodi up, tied her to the bed with this rope. He used a knife to cut the rope when it was at the appropriate length. They engaged in sexual activity. And then part of what they were doing that afternoon too was that he wanted to take pictures of Jodi. He had gotten a new camera just a month or so before, and he wanted to use it to take pictures of Jodi. Now, the kind of pictures that Travis wants to take of Jodi are the kind that would make most people cringe with embarrassment. And we show you these photos not for any type of shock value, but you're going to see them in trial. Because these are the photos that Travis took of Jodi. Very up close. Travis also liked to see Jodi in pigtails. And so she put her hair in pigtails for him. These photos were taken in the afternoon. Later that afternoon, Travis and Jodi were downstairs and they were back in his den.
Again, I mean, yeah, he's Mormon. Yeah, it's freaky shit. But like, it doesn't mean that's why she should have cut his throat.
They were pouring through pictures of all of their trips together, all the different pictures that they had. And there was a problem because Travis couldn't pull up pictures on his computer. And he was having a problem getting to see these pictures.
Thank you, Tara. I love and appreciate you. You're always so amazing. Thank you for gifting 5 memberships. That's really nice. Wilson got it. Nice. Good. Welcome to all the new members. I appreciate you very much, Tara. Very much.
Well, we know that there was a virus on Travis's computer. And we know that because of the forensic examination that was done.
And also think about it. She's saying that, oh, Travis wanted to take pictures in her pigtails or whatever. But she wanted to take pictures that night that she unalived him. She's recording it. Like blackmail type stuff. A psychopath trying to act normal. That's right, BRB queen. Men say stupid shit during the act. Yeah, common fetishes too. Yeah, there's BDSM. I mean, look, we haven't done a Gypsy Rose live, but we're going to this week. But they did. There was like fetishes there too, I think.
So when he tried to pull up these pictures, it wasn't working right. Well, Travis's temper flared and he took the CD and he threw it up against the wall in the den. Jodi went immediately into protective mode. Protective mode means that she's trying to calm him down, trying to do something to avoid his temper, telling him that it's okay, I'll fix it, don't worry about it. And as she was telling him, she knew that the one thing that calms his temper the quickest is sex. So as she's telling him, it's okay, I'll fix it, don't worry, Travis grabbed her and spun her around. afraid that he was going to hurt her, JODI was actually relieved when all he did was bend her over the desk, pull her arm up behind her back, pull her pants down, and have quick and rough vaginal sex with her, ejaculating all over her back.
What?
When Travis was finished, JODI was allowed to get up and go to the restroom across the hallway from the den. She washed herself off. And then the two went upstairs to the bedroom, back up to get her stuff. But Travis, his temper had now subsided. And he was now back into the sweet talking mode. And he was sweet talking her to stay for a little bit longer. Because he had, in preparation for his Cancun trip that he was going to be leaving on shortly, he had been working out. And he had been dieting. And so he really wanted to have pictures taken of him, tasteful pictures, to show his progress on what he's done with his dieting and working out. And he wanted JODI, the photographer, to take those pictures of him. And so she did. They went upstairs and he went into the shower.
That's funny. Chicana says that because she grew up in Salinas, says Salinas doesn't claim her anymore. She belongs in Arizona where that Nancy Guthrie case is going. So Arizona claims her now, man. We don't even want her in California.
And JODI began snapping pictures of him. Tasteful pictures, waist-up pictures for Travis. She was snapping picture after picture after picture.
Aww.
And you can see that this one
Thank
was
you, Tara. We love having you here. Thank you. Thank you.
taken at, these pictures are ultimately found and time-stamped. So you'll see that this picture was taken at 5:29 in the afternoon and 20 seconds. The next picture is the last picture of Travis taken in the shower. And you can see that in this picture, you can't tell so much if he's sitting or standing, but you can see that his shoulders are out. And in the next picture, you can see that his shoulders are out sitting on his knee. There's a difference of a little over a minute between the two pictures. This was the last picture of Travis taken in the shower during their photo session. Because the next picture is taken when JODI accidentally drops Travis's camera. You can see that it's not an intentional picture because one, it's blurry, but two, it's of the ceiling facing up. JODI accidentally drops Travis's camera. And as that camera was falling, that was enough for Travis because he lunged at JODI in anger, knocking her to the ground in the bathroom where there was a struggle. JODI's life was in danger. In just under a minute from the...
I really don't believe that unless there's a text message where Travis takes responsibility for it. I don't believe that.
Just a minute from this picture, we go to the next picture where it's Travis's body. He's clearly injured already in a minute. Now that very brief moment of time, a minute, is not the result of premeditation. It is not the result of a planned out attack.
Objection argument.
Sustained.
The evidence will show that it is not the result.
Objection argument.
Counsel approach.
It is just 1 minute of time between the camera falling until you see the picture of Travis with blood. 1 minute. In that 1 minute, had JODI not been forced to defend herself, none of us would be here. In that 1 minute, had JODI not chosen to defend herself, she would not be here. Thank you.
So good. I can't believe I've never watched this back to back like I usually do. Killers are so histrionic. I know. They both like to take pictures. She's a liar. No, she claims Travis lunged at her for dropping the camera. I think he lunged at her because she stabbed him. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. After watching the interrogation and now this, yeah, it's wild. And this is just opening statements. So as we go, I'll schedule after we do all of our true crime updates for the day, then this will probably be like later at night. So we've been covering Nancy Guthrie. But I do want to fit in the trial. I know it's a pretty long trial, but I've never seen it, so I need to. And I know it's one of the best trials ever. So She looks embarrassed. She should be. She nasty. Anyways, shout out to you guys. Thank you again, Tara, for the gifted memberships and Evie for the super chat. And shout out to all of you guys for being here. Welcome to the trial. I know. I want to watch day one already. I have it pulled up and I was going to do a combo of opening statements in day one, but we've already been like live for like 2 hours here. So I'll do day one separately. We have Epstein files next, and then we have Nancy case. And then I was going to try to squeeze in Kenzie. So turn on your notifications. I'm going to eat some lunch. We'll be back with Epstein files. These emails are crazy if you're into the Epstein files. And there's a new set of photos and you have been warned again. So I hope to see you guys there. And like I said, we'll be going in order with JODI ARIAS trial. So shout out to you guys for being here. I will see you guys in like 30 minutes over at the Epstein live. This channel or the second channel? This channel. I decided I'm not going to be silenced, Divine. So I'll deal with YouTube as it comes, I guess. They're trying to, censor me and demonetize and stuff, but I'm not going to be silenced. So I'm going to continue to cover it. It needs to be covered. And I know a lot of other channels are not covering it because of that reason. But a lot of, I'm not here just like, it's what I do, but I'm not just here for the money, I guess, and like the monetization. And I think that speaks volumes on a lot of creators, because if you're really, I know it like dings your channel, but if you're passionate and you really truly care about other, not that I'm saying creators don't, because it's dark. It's a lot of dark shit going on in the Epstein files, but that's how they silence you. And so I'm a little upset that I haven't seen as many creators that I personally follow cover it. I'm seeing a lot more on X that do. And that's nothing personal. Not that I'm saying everyone needs to be talking about it, but everyone's talking about the Nancy Guthrie case. And Nancy Guthrie is only getting this attention because of Savannah. And Savannah's in the Epstein files. But anyways, that's not what I was getting at. People go missing all the time. There's a ton of children missing. And what about those children and the females in the Epstein files? Like, did everyone make sure they're okay too? There's a lot of people. There's actually a girl missing in Arizona. I'm going to do a live on it. She's been missing around, I think she went missing 1 day before Nancy, and she's getting no coverage. And then I met this other guy on X, like an older, his daughter has been missing for like 10 years. And there's like all this crazy stuff going on in the case, but no coverage. I hadn't even heard of it. So I'm like, that's messed up. But anyways, like I said, many children and people go missing. Not that I'm saying Nancy doesn't matter. She does. I've been covering it, but there's a lot of other stuff going on. So anyways, I'm going to continue to cover it. I'll see you guys here and on that live on this channel. When we go do After Darks, we'll hop on over to the second channel. No one ever cared about Virginia, right? Yeah, they just wanted that interview, but no one cared. I agree, Melly. The powers that be can make it where you can't work. It's so sad. I know. I'm proud of you. Thank you, Divine. Thank you. Go, Melly, go. It can be very hard to get the records for missing children. I know, but still, there's so many cases that deserve as much attention. Like Guthrie's on every freaking person that I follow, almost. Like all day long. It's public now. Why are they trying to stop you? I'll tell you guys more about the documents in a minute. They don't like us talking about the missing kids that went missing because of the elites. People are saying Nancy went missing because of the Epstein files. Yeah, we covered that yesterday, Chantel, in the late night live. I've been talking about it since I started Epstein files. She was in there. So is Ashley Banfield and Harvey from TMZ. And they're quiet. It's funny. I'm actually not really sure about how I feel about Banfield anymore, because she's so quick to jump on a live and accuse the son-in-law or whatever in the Nancy case. And she wants to get the first interview and everyone wants to be number one for the views and stuff. But it's like, she hasn't said one peep about her trying to hook up with Jeffrey Epstein. And it doesn't matter. You're right. It's true crime. but you're in them. So like address it and move on. Or because at this point, I don't know, like, I don't know how I feel about that. She's quick to put everything else out there on everybody's life and missing cases and stuff, but she doesn't want to put her shit out there. I don't do that. Either come real or don't, and like address it and tell everyone to move on, or don't, or like state your intentions and move on, and that's it. People are over it. The pedo rings are big and full of famous people. They have the power to block your life. Yeah, they're doing terrible things, projecting. Is Nancy missing because Savannah interviewed Virginia? I think it goes deeper than Virginia, though, because her husband used to work for Bill Clinton. Savannah Guthrie's husband was the cleanup guy for the Clintons. So I think that goes a lot deeper than we think. But anyways, we can talk about that on the Epstein Live. I'll see you guys over there soon. It's already scheduled. So make sure you have your notifications on and make it so we can conversate about all of this. I appreciate you guys for being here, and I will see you on the next one.